Don't fuck up, don't fuck yourself. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Rude Cooking School Podcast. I'm your host, John Hauser III, and with me today is no one. I'm by myself again, and that's perfectly fine. I'm here with you, and we are going to go into a culinary journey of immense proportions. Actually, not very immense. It's very short, but very long. Kind of, that doesn't make sense. I'm going to do a bunch of origins of famous foods, but just short little overtures, just little guys that are gonna get us from one to another. A lot of these, honestly, are on the back burner for doing big episodes. So, they're in the middle of research. So they're just little snippets of the future. Some we've done, some we haven't. Some I really want to do, and I'll talk about those as I hit them. But they're just little food histories, and I've got a bunch of them here. But we'll just get in and get out. I'm not gonna read all of them because I just have a bunch written down, gathered for like, oh, this is gonna be the future. So we'll see. As of right now, let's talk about the Reuben sandwich. This one I was actually really surprised about because when you think of Reubens, you think of like, hey, forget about it, right? Like it's a fucking New York staple. Like when it's like a deli staple there. Even here in Baltimore, in our Jewish delis, like Reubens are like their fucking go-to like kind of deal. And I love them. I get maybe one a year. It's a very sloppy sandwich. It's crazy when you think about it. Like when I tell you what's on it, if you don't know what on the Reuben, it really seems random. It seems like a bunch of shit that was just together, and the guy was like, fuck it. Maybe it was just drunk enough to be like, that'll work. So several tales have been told about the history of one of the country's favorite sandwiches. But one of the most compelling stories comes from Omaha, Nebraska. Fucking seriously? The middle of the goddamn country? During the 1920s, hotel owner Bernard Schimmel prepared snacks for his friends playing poker and for a man called Reuben Kulikovsky. He made a corned beef, Swiss cheese, sauerkraut, and Russian dressing sandwich. God, I can't say that. And the rest, as they say, is history. However, Kulikovsky's family argues that Schimmel simply delivered a deli platter with all the shit on it, and then Kulikovsky created the sandwich that went on to become famous. But like, okay. But like, I mean, sure. Because I guess they're saying the Reuben was named after him or for him, maybe because he created it. But that's a pretty random assortment of shit to just be like, that sounds good. I mean, even just to make a sandwich like that, it's pretty bananas. You got the corned beef, Swiss cheese. Okay, I'm with you. Sauerkraut. Okay, I get it. You need something to kind of poke off. But then the Russian dressing is fucking crazy. If you don't know what Russian dressing is, basically mayonnaise, ketchup, gherkins, pickles, pickle juice, mixed up shit. It's a pretty crazy assortment of things. It's delicious as hell together. I might have to get one of those this weekend. God damn. Maybe I'll make some corned beef. Oh, sounds good. Pumpkin pie. It's, as we all know, it's traditionally eaten around Thanksgiving. Pumpkin pie is really good anytime. It's so fucking good. Probably top 5 pies, top 3 pies for me. Top 3 for probably a lot of people. It's just really good. And everybody knows the trick now that like when you have leftover pumpkin pie, which, why would you have leftover pumpkin pie is the joke. But if you just take leftover pumpkin pie and throw it into a blender with like a scoop of ice cream and a little bit of milk and blend it, you got one of the greatest shakes of all time. So it was eaten at Thanksgiving, but then there was a book called American Cookery by Amelia Simmons, written in 1796, that included a recipe for pumpkin, Pumpkin, pumpkin in a pastry. spiced with nutmeg, allspice, and ginger, and sweetened with molasses. And then its place on the Thanksgiving table was secured when McCormick and Company started selling pumpkin pie spice blend in the 1930s, and all white women around the world cheered, or at least in America, making it easier than ever for aspiring cooks to make the dish. But it's interesting to think that, like, there was an origin of the pumpkin pie, and it's pretty, I mean, considering how old America is, and this is, a pumpkin pie is a traditional kind of American food. 1796 is pretty good. And then it, in the 30s, having all the spices together is pretty convenient for people, because I'm pretty sure even back then spices were expensive or a pain in the ass to get, and having a spice blend for just the one thing when you're not going to use nutmeg and allspice and ginger in everything, that's pretty good. The Philly cheesesteak, this one's good, and I'm sure 8,000 people have different origins of the Philly cheesesteak, as I'm sure the Reuben sandwich has probably 8,000 people saying what it is. And I would love to do an episode on this, the cheesesteak, because there's a lot of fucking crazy shit behind all the Philly cheesesteak nonsense. Love a Philly cheesesteak. Not a big guy with whiz. I've had it with whiz. I think it's too messy. I like a plasticky American cheese that keeps everything together. Like it's the glue of the sandwich. Cheese whiz is just a little sloppy and wet. It's just kind of, it's too oily. Everything kind of slips out. I'm also not a fan of peppers. Not a big fan of peppers on my shit. I'm a lettuce, tomato, onion, mayonnaise guy. Raw onion, by the way. Philly's most famous food is the cheesesteak. The story goes that one day, hot dog vendors and brothers Pat and Harry Oliveri got bored of grilling hot dogs. Who would ever get tired of that? And experimented with beef in an Italian-style roll. A cab driver saw what they were doing and ordered one. I see. Hey, what you doing? What you doing over there? Like you want to talk about a Baltimore accent? Go up fucking Philly. That shit's real deep. Demand for the meaty sandwich grew so much that in 1930, the brothers opened Pat's King of Steaks, the first steak sandwich shop in Philly, which remains popular to this day. They do have a fucking good cheesesteak. Shop manager Joe Lorenzo is often credited with adding cheese to the sandwich. That dude should have a fucking shrine somewhere. I'm sure he does. Cementing the sandwich's iconic status. Some people put this on their cheesesteak, and that's fucking crazy, which is Heinz tomato ketchup. Today, Heinz is synonymous with ketchup, but businessman Harry J. Heinz and Clarence Noble first teamed up in 1869. Their first product was bottled, and it was grated horseradish, which Harry grew in his garden. It wasn't until 1876 that they released the famous sweet and savory tomato condiment we all know and love. It was originally spelled with a C, catsup, and contained just 5 ingredients, including sun-ripened tomatoes. So it's probably tomatoes, sugar, vinegar, probably molasses, and then salt. Probably. I might be missing one, but that sounds about right. And ketchup, we've done an episode on that, going back as far as mushroom ketchup was a really big thing. Like there were so many different ketchup recipes, and somehow because basically of Heinz, they kind of fucking took up the mantle of like, this is ketchup, and people just went, all right. But today actually it's really interesting. Mushroom ketchup is really making kind of a comeback. And I've seen it on a lot of, not experimental, but more forward-thinking menus. And it's really interesting, and I'd love to try some. I don't want to make it because it always seems like a pain in the ass, but who knows? One thing I am a big fan of is deep dish pizza, and that was invented in Chicago in 1943 when Ike Sewell and Rick Ricardo, not Ricky Ricardo, Rick RIC. Rick Ricardo opened Pizzeria Uno and decided to serve up something a little different, an Italian-American pizza. Not just, at the time, people ate Italian pizzas. The pie had a thick crust and was cooked in a deep pan with layers of cheese, meat, and sauce, making it a satisfying alternative to the thin and crispy pizza. I don't think, I've said this before, I don't think that Chicago deep dish pizza is a pizza. It's a casserole. I love it. I don't like Pizzeria Uno's pizza. It's not good anymore. Because it's just a fucking corporate entity that just they've sacrificed all their shit. But I do enjoy deep dish pizza. When I was out in Chicago a long time ago, probably about 10 years ago to this now, I tried like 4 or 5 different kinds and they were really good. There was a favorite, and one of those guys is going to come up in a bit. A decade later, Ricardo died, and Sewell took the credit, and people still dispute who the true inventor was. See, and this is another episode that would be really good just because of all the intrigue. Was it Ricardo, Sewell, or Rudy Malnati, an employee at the pizzeria at the time, who went on to... he worked there for a while, and then they branched off once he had sons, and one of his sons named Lou created Lou Malnati's Pizzeria, which I think hands down has the best. And look, don't come for me. Out of the 4 or 5 that I tried, Lou Malnati's was fucking like I ate there and it was awesome. Old school ass. It was really fun. It felt like an old school Pizza Hut for some reason, but like if Pizza Hut was like mobbed up, like Jabba the, like Pizza the Hut, you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah. Anyway, speaking of big conglomerations, the Big Mac is ubiquitous, and it launched in 1967 and was developed by Jim Delegati, owner and operator of a McDonald's franchise in Pittsburgh. Made with 2 beef patties, special sauce, a variant of Thousand Island, lettuce, cheese, American cheese, pickles, onions, and served in a 3-part sesame seed bun. The burger recipe was created and has remained the same ever since. At first, the idea was met with resistance by some McDonald's executive, but today it's one of the company's best-selling items. And I mean, when I was a kid, that was the saying, right? 2 all beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions on a sesame seed bun. I could say that in my sleep. Like reading it was harder than like just letting my brain vomit it out, because I want to say 2 all beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions on a sesame seed bun. Like all one fucking sentence, all one word. It's like LMNOP when you're doing the alphabet, right? That was just kind of drilled into my brain in the 80s, and it's there forever. I think, and have always thought, that a Big Mac tastes like absolute shit. Even when I was a kid, it was fucking disgusting. It's sweet and it's gross. And if you eat it, you're a bad person. Yeah, I said it. I'm not afraid of you motherfuckers. Kellogg's Frosted Flakes. We've had an episode about this, and it's fucking great. Corn Flakes were invented thanks to a failed attempt to make granola. Kellogg's company founders were brothers John and Will Kellogg, and they accidentally flaked wheat berry, with Will continuing to experiment until he flaked corn and realized he was onto something. The recipe was perfected, and Corn Flakes were eventually rolled out globally, becoming one of the favorite breakfast cereals in the world. It was actually created as a treatment for people to not have sex, as a health food, because they had I think it was Will Kellogg or John. It might have been John who had the, I think it was called Wellville or something like that. Maybe I'm getting it mixed up with the movie Road to Wellville, which is actually really funny if you want to watch a story about it, because the crazy one was crazy, and he was just into health and not having sex and keeping your energy in your body is really weird. And then, people would go there to not have sex and then just have the dirtiest sex. But it's really cool movie, and it's a really funny story. And somebody had to make cornflakes. And it's really strange when you think of the origin of this stuff. It's just fucking people. These weren't like giant companies now, like when you see like fucking Takis or some crazy extruded weird shape, like Monster Munch in the UK, or I mean, shit, even cheese puffs or fucking Funyuns. Like, that shit's not natural. This was just like, they just took corn and figured out a way to steam it and roll it through rollers, and, kind of like they did with oats to create instant oats, and cornflakes were born after they baked them, right? And people probably ate it and they're like, oh, this is delicious. And then somebody added sugar and they were like, oh, shit. And then you get Frosted Flakes. Another thing that from the 80s that I remember, I mean, Christ, they've been around for over 100 years, but everybody remembers from their childhood, is Oreos. Developed in 1912 by the National Biscuit Company, today known as Nabisco. Nabisco, National Biscuit Company, Nabisco. Oreos launched at the same time as Mother Goose biscuits and Veronese biscuits, now both long forgotten. Don't forget about the disgusting Hydrox cookies. The cream-filled chocolate cookie sandwich went on to become the best-selling cookie in the world, and other countries introduce interesting flavors such as blueberry and green tea ice cream. Gross. Actually, I bet that tastes good, but I prefer an regular Oreo. I don't like double stuffed. It's too much stuff. I know, but that shit's greasy and it's weird. And there's gotta be a ratio. It's too much stuff. And the thin ones, they're too thin. Too much cookie. Regular Oreo, perfect amount of combinations. A good amount of both. I am a person who holds them down until they're dead and just falling apart, and then I eat them. I don't like a crispy Oreo. I like a soggy fucking Oreo, man. It's so delicious. It's like instant chocolate vanilla shake in your mouth. I don't know why. Just how I do. Some people are maniacs and like to twist them and eat the fucking middle out first, and that's disturbing. That's crazy. And the chocolate cookie by itself tastes like shit. Absolute shit. That it has to be eaten with the white stuff. I don't know why anybody would want to do that, but you do you. New York cheesecakes, made with a cracker crust and cream cheese, cream, eggs, and sugar. A New York style cheesecake is baked and traditionally served plain without toppings. Arnold Rubin, a German Jewish immigrant, claims to be responsible for the recipe, saying he was inspired by a cheese pie he was served at a dinner party. He began selling it in his turf restaurant in 1929, where it quickly gained popularity. And, sure. I love New York cheesecakes. I love cheesecake. I don't love New York cheesecake. Most New York cheesecake is very dry, is overcooked. Like every picture I look, it's just disgusting. I do love a gross cherry syrup, like cherries, like cherry jubilee, I guess it was called, on top of it. I'm a sucker for that gross, nasty shit. But I will eat a gross. Don't think I won't. I'll eat a shitty piece of cheesecake. But I prefer the Basque burnt cheesecake. Jenny made me one a couple years ago for my birthday, and that was very nice of her. And I would like another one. I'm just putting it out there. I might have to make one myself. Buffalo wings. They've become surprisingly one of the biggest dishes in America. And in the last 5 years, you got to be a millionaire to get 12 of them. They're like fucking $2 a wing now. It's crazy. You can still look, I'll tell you this. Find a good recipe for making buffalo wings at your house and just go buy a bag of them at BJ's or Costco, because you can get a giant fucking bag of them for like $25 and then just make them yourself. And however you want to make them, just get like the couple, like a dozen out at a time. And they're in the ones you get at BJ's and Costco. They're the big ones. They're not those fucking little pigeon wings. 12 is a meal. So anyway, the crazy thing about buffalo wings is I remember the first time I had buffalo wings, I was probably in college. It wasn't even a thing yet, really, in the early 90s, until maybe the mid 90s. Like, I remember the first time eating them being like, oh my God, this is the fucking best thing I've ever had in my life. Because I was a big blue cheese fan. The only salad dressing I really liked at the time was blue cheese. And I loved blue cheese and celery. And then this comes along and it's like, oh God, it's the fucking triumvirate of deliciousness. But they've only been around since 1964, which is pretty crazy. The accidental invention of deep fried spicy wings served with celery and blue cheese is thanks to the Anchor Bar in Buffalo, New York. We've talked about this story before on the podcast. There are other places that say, no, we did it first, but Anchor Bar is usually the place that everybody says. So I'm just going with it for now. There are 3 versions of a similar story. Teresa Bellissimo served wings with her special sauce and a celery and blue cheese dip because that's all she had available. She invented the recipe, and after the bar received an unexpected shipment of wings, she made the dish for her son as a late night snack. Whatever the truth, they're more popular than ever. And then, Super Bowl's coming up in a couple weeks, 3 weeks, I think, 2 weeks, 3. And then everyone eats fucking buffalo wings. They're delicious. They're so good. And wings themselves like have exploded into so many. Like, Crosby doesn't really like buffalo wings, but he loves Old Bay wings, which is a big thing here in Baltimore. If you never had them, highly recommend it. Just prepare your wings however you do, baked, fried, and then just roll them and just toss them in some Old Bay or J.O. spice, which is really what most people use. And it's delicious with the blue cheese and or ranch. Yes, ranch is a good way to do it. I use ranch a lot when I grill wings. Like, I'll take herbs and a little bit of salt and put them over wings and just let them sit overnight so everything kind of melds together and they kind of dry brine. And then I'll just grill the wings. Like, I'll smoke them a little bit first and then grill them to just color them up and char them on the edges and shit. And then I'll make a homemade ranch, because bottled ranch tastes like ass. It's not even close. Not even close. I do highly, if you've never made ranch at home, do that and then grill some wings and dip those in. You will thank me. It's a fucking amazing combination. You know what else is an amazing combination? Shrimp and grits. It's called professionalism, people. It's a Southern dish, of course. It has its roots in Native American culture and was originally a very regional dish, mainly eaten at home. Then in 1985, an article written by Craig Claiborne in the New York Times changed everything. He highlighted Bill Neal's Southern food at the chef's restaurant Crook's Corner, in particular calling out the spicy shrimp on cheese grits with bacon, mushrooms, and scallions. Since then, it's been everywhere. And there's the Native American roots and there's African American roots as well, with shrimp and grits. And it's a big sort of Southern New Orleans, Low Country, Geechee Gullah dish. It's so good when you make it. Even bad shrimp and grits most of the time it gets you through. And I've had some bad shrimp and grits, and it's mainly the grits. It's really hard to fuck up shrimp, and you can fuck up shrimp and they'll be, you can deal with it. But grits, man, people don't know how to make grits. They make them too tight. When they get to your table, it's like eating fucking, mortar, like the stuff that goes in between bricks. It's just so thick. It's not how it should be. But yeah, you know what goes on shrimp and grits? Tabasco. Yes, I did it again. Tabasco sauce is I mean, people love it. I'm not a big fan. But Tabasco was the big daddy, on the shelves in the beginning. Um, Now there's so many different kinds of hot sauce, and slap your mama and kick your donkey and fuck your pillow and asshole ripper and death to your colon and fucking my teeth fell out hot sauce and shit. Um, this is where it all started. People got that love of heat from Tabasco. Foodie and avid gardener Edmund McElhenney planted some pepper seeds on Louisiana's Avery Island, a former salt dome owned by his wife's family, to create a sauce to spice up the dull diet of the Reconstruction South. He called the sauce Tabasco, a word of Mexican Indian origin believed to mean, quote, place where the soil is humid, end quote. In 1869, he grew enough to make 658 bottles of Tabasco, which he sent to grocers around the Gulf Coast. People started drizzling it over oysters, and its popularity spread to San Francisco and New York. By the late 1870s, the sauce was available across the United States and Europe. It's available in over 195 countries worldwide right now. Yeah, I mean, Tabasco is good with a raw oyster. I do like it on that. That's probably the only way I actually use Tabasco. If I'm at a place that has raw oysters and they have Tabasco, most of the time I do mignonette, but every few times it's nice to just throw a little Tabasco and just be like, oh yeah, that's what it is. Some people put Tabasco on their eggs Benedict, and a hungry and hungover Wall Street broker, Lumel Benedict, walked into a New York City Waldorf hotel in 1894 and ordered buttered toast, poached eggs, crisp bacon, and hollandaise sauce. Before assembling his breakfast dish himself, the hotel's head chef was so impressed that he made eggs Benedict a permanent fixture, swapping the toast for an English muffin and crisp bacon for Canadian bacon. It remains a quintessential brunch dish today. I love an eggs Benny. I've had numerous kinds. There's a big one here in Baltimore where, because everybody puts crab on everything. Eggs Benedict with crab is really good, but I just like a good eggs Benny with some hot sauce on top. The poach has to be good, but yeah, eggs Benedict is so fucking good. Hollandaise sauce is a weakness, and I can only make it like once every 2 to 3 years, because if I remind myself how easy it is to just make in a blender, I will just drink a pint of hollandaise sauce. And hollandaise sauce is basically just eggs and butter. Like, it's a butter sauce, and it's so fucking good. Yeah. Chocolate chip cookies. Ruth Wakefield of the Toll House Inn in Whitman, Massachusetts, invented the chocolate chip cookie in the 1930s, which is fucking crazy to think about, with the recipe first appearing in her 1938 cookbook, Tried and True. There were a few different versions of events. One suggested that Wakefield added chunks of bittersweet Nestle chocolate after running out of chopped nuts. Whether she meant to invent the cookies or not, Nestle bought the rights to her recipe and the Toll House name for $1 and a lifetime supply of chocolate. She got ripped off. But, Toll House cookies, still a thing today. Keebler elves, watch out. Kraft dinner. This is, I think a lot of American kids grow up with Kraft macaroni and cheese, which back in the day it was just macaroni and cheese dinner, Kraft dinner. They really leaned into it in the 80s with like Kraft mac and cheese, like trying to update it and make it hip and shit, because everybody else had come out with their powdered cheese craziness. And James Lewis Kraft didn't invent macaroni cheese or processed cheese, but he was the first to patent emulsified and powdered cheese. after he saw a salesman selling grated cheese and boxed pasta. He had the idea for Kraft Dinner macaroni and cheese. Hitting the shelves in 1937 during the Great Depression, it was an instant success as a family of four could eat dinner for 19 cents. And in the first year, 8 million boxes were sold. Today, over 1 million boxes are sold daily. And you know what? You can't, it tastes a certain way. It brings a certain amount of nostalgia with it. I don't eat it ever, but when I do eat it, because, it pops up at cookouts and family get-togethers and shit, and I'll get some, and I'm like, oh man. And then if I can put it with some hot dogs, hell yeah, that's the shit. Slightly fancier is Waldorf salad. The Waldorf salad, which was originally a mix of apples, celery, and mayonnaise, took New York City by storm when it was created for the eponymous hotel's debut in 1893. The original recipe was outlined in Maitre d' Oscar Cherkes's my brain just broke. Reset. Rewind. Oscar Tshirky's cookbook, the cookbook by Oscar of the Waldorf. That's a mouthful. However, since its conception, people have added chopped walnuts, grapes, and blue cheese with the salad now found on the menu across the world. Yeah, I haven't had a Waldorf salad in forever. It seems like apple, celery, and mayonnaise is pretty rough. That seems like it's got, yeah, apples, celery, and mayonnaise. I guess I've never had a traditional Waldorf salad. I've always had it with walnuts in it. I do like apples in my salad. Mayonnaise is a little rough. I mean, I guess it gets watered down by the apple juice and the celery water. I'm okay with grapes being in it. Blue cheese, yeah, let's do that. I mean, it all sounds good together. Maybe I've never had a traditional Waldorf salad. Weird. Pink lemonade. Two common stories both link its invention to traveling circuses around the mid 1800s, because murderers and serial killers who worked at the circuses loved pink lemonade. One suggested that as a boy, famed circus promoter Henry E. Allett accidentally dropped red-colored cinnamon candies in a vat of freshly made lemonade. That is wild because that wouldn't taste anything like pink lemonade. The second theory claims that a lemonade vendor ran out of water, so he grabbed a bucket of water in which a performer had just washed their pink tights. Luckily, these days, the pink color comes from berries or red food dye. Fuck both of those stories. I mean, honestly, I'll rather take the cinnamon and lemon than my bath water drink. Oh, gross, man. So wait a minute. I guess he just put lemon juice in bath water? That's gross. How would anybody drink that and be like, I love that story. Give me some more of that. Is that how you're making it? Are you making this shit like the original? 'Cause I only like bath water lemon juice. Gross. Cheese puffs. Eric Cartman's favorite things in the world. The first cheese puffs were rather unnervingly invented in an animal feed factory. The Flake-All Company of Belvoir, I'm assuming it's Belvoir, Wisconsin, in the 1930s. Workers noticed that puffed corn was produced when machines were cleaned by feeding moist corn through the grinder. Yeah, that sounds sexy. An employee named Edward Wilson decided to take some home, seasoned them, and thought they tasted good. The factory decided to move into making snack food, including these cheesy corn curls, and changed its name to Adams Corporation to disassociate itself from animal feed. Cheetos took the snack into the mainstream and remains America's cheese puff of choice. Okay. Truth time, everybody. How do you eat them? Do you eat them one by one? Do you eat them whole? Do you, like, we're talking about cheese puffs right now. Do you eat them whole or do you bite them in half? Do you eat them one by one, or, and look, I'm vulnerable. I'm going to tell you the truth what I do. It's not pretty. I put them in my mouth and let them melt, and then I put another one in my mouth and let its brother destroy it until it melts, until I have a mouthful of cheesy corn mush, and then I swallow it. I'm not proud of it. I'm not. Does it taste delicious? Yes. You know why? Because I got cheese and corn constantly on my tongue. It's great. It's the best way to eat it. Yes, I know. I can't be fixed, but it's delicious. Try it sometime. If you've never done it, just, keep feeding the rocks into the lava is what I'm saying. I trust you. Okay? I trust you. This is between me and you. If we see each other in public, look, we don't have to talk about it. If you want to get weird, let's get weird. But right now, it's just between me and you. Thank you for holding my secret. TV dinners. They're fucking so crazy. Like, TV dinners are bananas. Despite early attempts to crack the ready meal market, it wasn't until Swanson Foods overordered and were left with 520,000 pounds of excess turkey after Thanksgiving in 1953 that TV dinners became a success. Annoyed bosses requested staff find a clever way to stop the meat from going to waste, and salesman Gary Thomas was the person to come up with the idea. Elaborate marketing campaigns, including packaging shaped like a TV, cemented its success. Like, this shit, when it hit, fucking came out like gangbusters. And I think one of the reasons why, I know one of the reasons why is a lot of the men that this was served to, it reminded them of the food they ate in the army in World War II. And they fucking went bananas for it. And for wives who, instead of having to fucking slave over a stove all day, take a TV dinner, pop it in the oven, let it cook, put it in front of your fucking drunk husband who's, seen some shit in Germany, and then put on the Howdy Doody show and on your, TV tray and watch some shit and just not talk to each other for another 4 years. But like, dude, TV dinners are fucking miracles of the modern American foodway. And they were the they were the downfall of a lot of, hey, let's all eat together and let's cook. But, I get it, man. Sometimes people are just fucking tired. They don't want to fucking do that shit every day, all day, in and out. It's a goddamn pain in the ass. And for someone to come around and be like, hey, by the way, do you not want to cook tonight? Fucking right. Let's do that. So, yeah, I love fucking, I haven't had a TV dinner in forever. I can look at a picture of it and tell you exactly what it tastes like, though, because I've had a million of them. I ate a bunch of them when I was a kid. And some of them come with chocolate brownies. There are a few claims to the invention of the crispy on the outside, gooey on the inside creation that is the chocolate brownie. Some people say it was accidental, the result of melted chocolate added to a biscuit or cake batter without enough flour. But the story favored by many and cited in Betty Crocker's baking classics is that a housewife in Bangor, Maine, was baking a chocolate cake and it collapsed. Instead of discarding it, she cut it into bars and served it, receiving rave reviews. That's some fucking ingenuity. Now it's one of the world's best things. Like, dude, brownies, give them to me. Love them. Nuts, no nuts, marshmallows, take or leave those. Not very good. But I do love brownies. I love blondies too. Very good. Potato chips. I fucking love this story because it is very much the story of how, you know, some fucking asshole accidentally invents a thing and then it becomes amazing. The invention of the potato chip is contested, like, you know, like most things. But the most popular story, and the one that I love, was that the salty snack was created at Moon's Lake House in Saratoga Springs, New York in 1853. Wealthy steamship owner Cornelius Vanderbilt sent his French fries back to the kitchen for being too thick. So cook George Crumb made them again. And this time he shaved the potatoes as thin as possible and fried them to make them crisp. So this story is actually, the way I'm reading it now sounds kind of nice. Cornelius Vanderbilt was being a fucking asshole. And he kept going, "It's too thick. It's not crispy enough. Send them back. I don't like them. They're too mushy in the middle. They're not cooked all the way." And he just kept being a fucking asshole and sending them back. The fucking French fries, right? So George Crumb was getting pissed. And to be a smartass, he shaved them as fucking thin as he could with his knife and hand cut them. And then deep fried them to be like, "Here, you fuck. Like, you want them crisp? How about you just have the fucking outsides of them as a joke? Like, just to be a cheeky shit." And to Crumb's surprise, Vanderbilt loved them. And they became Moon's Lake House's signature dish. God damn, I can't talk. However, more recently, it's been said the restaurant is merely where potato chips gain popularity. But, you know, a story's a story, and most of the time you get along with the story instead of the actual truth. But that's a good story. I love a vindictive chef being like, "All right, you fuck. You've been sending these back. Now I'm going to fuck with you." Hot dogs, which go great with potato chips. The story of the hot dog begins in 1860. We've gone over this. There's an episode all about hot dogs if you go back in the archive. It's widely believed the first sausage in a bun was sold from a food cart in New York City, but it didn't really gain widespread popularity until Nathan Handwerker opened a hot dog stand in Coney Island in 1915. Wrapped in bacon, covered in cheese, or topped with chili, the classic Frankfurter and bun combination is now a staple of American restaurant menus in countries around the world. There's also a lot of stories of the World's Fair, and then other people that were like, "Yeah, my fucking uncle made it," you know, all that shit. Coca-Cola. The story of Coca-Cola isn't a straightforward one, but it starts in 1886 with pharmacist John Pemberton. The drink was originally advertised as a brain tonic to relieve headaches and exhaustion, and it contained ingredients including coca leaf and cola nut, hence the name Coca-Cola. By the way, the coconut leaf and stuff has cocaine that was in there. But its commercial success is attributed to Asa Griggs Chandler, who bought the company in 1888 and is responsible for its marketing success, adding it, you know, packaging it and all that, and then getting Santa Claus involved in all the marketing. Like, from the beginning, Coca-Cola became famous because they had great marketing, and it's pretty special. S'mores. Last but not least, s'mores. Actually, I'll do one more after s'mores. While a few s'mores-like foods appeared before the treat we know and love today, the official recipe came from the Girl Scouts cookbook. Tramping and trailing with the Girl Scouts in 1929. I couldn't name that today. It sounds terrible. Tramping and trailing with the Girl Scouts. Intended to teach girls how to be good Girl Scouts. The most inspiring instruction in the book was to toast 2 marshmallows over the coals to a crisp, gooey state, and then put them inside a graham cracker and a chocolate bar sandwich. Originally called Some Mores because you normally want more, over the years, the name was shortened to S'mores. Yeah, who doesn't like s'mores? They're fucking delicious. And then lastly, we'll go with soda floats. I haven't had a soda float in forever. I'm a root beer float man, or a vanilla float person. Just like, you know, vanilla, like soda and vanilla ice cream, like a double vanilla. Orange sickles are really good. Most accounts of the soda float invention date back to the late 19th century and start with a Philadelphia soda shop owner named Robert Greene. Supposedly, he was at an exhibition and ran out of cream for his carbonated water, syrup, and cream drinks, so he used ice cream instead. However, there are quite few contenders to this story, including George Guy, one of Robert Greene's employees. Guy claims to have absent-mindedly mixed ice cream and soda, much to his customers' delight. But, whoever made it, it all came out of the same place. So, and it's very possible that some fucking person across the country came up with the same exact thing within a month or two of the same time. You know what I mean? Like soda shops were really big. And the fact that, kids love combining things. Like think of when you're at like a store that lets you mix your own combination of like sodas. Like I used to do that all the time. You just mix it all together and it just tastes like your own invention. I'm sure that happened before that, but that's the story. And that's what they're sticking to, and we'll see. So thanks. That's it. Thank you for listening to the Rude Cooking School podcast. I will be back next week with some food news and some entertainment for your ears and stomach. I'm on Blue Sky now at Rude, and then at Rude Cooking School. If you want to add me, there's the podcast, and then me specifically as a person, where I post, fun shit or just things that I see on Blue Sky. And then the podcast is more food centric, and that's how I'm going to keep them separate. So come on over and add me. I'm not using social media besides that. Otherwise it's the Facebook group, which is social media, but the Facebook group is its own, like echo chamber and its own like biodome. And if you come there, be cool. We'll let you in, but be cool and have fun with everybody. It's a lot of fun over there. We post memes and recipes and answer each other's cooking questions. And it's probably the best place on Facebook until that has to go. But we'll see. Right now, our Facebook group is great, and it's got a zillion people, and it's a lot of fun to go there and just hang out and read everybody's, stupid memes, or, just honestly look at what they're eating. A lot of people post like, hey, I ate here and it was fucking awesome. So join. And also, can you please share this podcast with your friends? It means a lot. We don't pay for advertising, and that's how we get around is word of mouth. Do it, and we'll be better for it because we can all talk about food when we hang out. So there you go. Thank you again. I really appreciate it. So for the Rude Cooking School podcast, I'm John Hauser III. Don't yuck my yum. Peace, everybody.